causality. So I take, first of all, existence of things, space, time, and causality in the first semester. This kind of existence of things, space, time, and thing is equal to formation and structure of the universe. So in the first semester, we'll be talking about formation and structure of the universe. In the second semester, when we look at the nature of beings and beings, we're talking about creation, generation of life. So that will be covered in the second semester. The third semester is existence of life. Existence. Okay. So existence of life, we're going to be talking about consciousness the way we just talked about it today. And finally, the meaning of life and everything else. Why do we study all this? Because we want to find out the meaning of life and the meaning of everything else. Okay. And that, if you know the meaning of life, you are enlightened. And you know the meaning of everything else, you're fully enlightened. So we're talking about enlightenment. We'll be in the fourth semester. So in other words, we can take religion, modernize it, put it into a respectable academic environment like this one, like today we're talking at the university lecture room, and create official curriculum for this and make it a science. We can make religion a science and vice versa, and science a religion. And I will describe how that is done. It is done through the bridge between science and religion is metaphysics. Why? Because metaphysics as a philosophy is neutral, and it's free itself from all the old terminology and dogma and everything else. It doesn't get into the argument that God is just God and Jesus is a person, and then no, Jesus is Son of God and this Trinity is part of God. That kind of duality, it frees itself from that. But it can talk about it at an equal platform, and that's the wonderful thing about metaphysics. We now have a platform to bring everybody together. Okay. So, in the first semester, when we talk about formation and structure of the universe, the person who most qualified to teach us about formation and structure of the universe is probably Stephen Hawking, the Nobel Prize winner, and sit on the Newton's chair of mathematics. And he was recently here at the Perimeter Institute, and this lecture was attended by our premier and also Ray Clement, Tony Clement, who was representing the federal government, minister of, I forgot what minister. Anyway, well-respected person. By the way, the Perimeter Institute and University of Waterloo now has a Stephen Hawking Institute. So we will use his book, A Brief History of Time, as the textbook for the first semester. So, the Big Bang Theory has to be covered when we talk about formation and structure of the universe. And textbook, History of Time by Stephen Hawking. By the way, you all know that Stephen Hawking is a paraplegic. That means his body, limbs, movement, he cannot even talk. He sits in a wheelchair. Okay? But he has transcended all that physical disability. His mind is the brightest mind of the human mind. Okay? Inspirational. This is what we mean by thinking out of the box. Right? for most people, oh, this is useless, useless person. He can't even talk. He speaks through his muscle. His student built him a computer so that his muscle movement can translate into a computer voice box. That's how he lectures. Inspirational person. Which means our physical disability has nothing to do with enlightenment. And then Big Bang in reverse becomes reductionism. Now we've gone through reductionism, reducing the whole complex human body down to the single unicellular sperm and egg, and reduce that into a single cell, and reduce that to biochemistry, chemistry, and so on. So reductionism is the analysis of something into simpler parts or organized systems, especially when viewed to explain or understand it. So the result of reduction is we saw no God in the process. And the reason we see no God is because we're deducing based on a finite mindset. So when we reduce from biology or anatomy to physiology to cell biology to chemistry to biochemistry, cell biology, biochemistry, organic chemistry to physics, oh sorry, somehow this thing got reversed, but anyway, conservation of matter, Newtonian physics, thermodynamics, conservation of energy to quantum world to string theory and so on. The whole process is no God in there. Because we're dealing with finite, measurable things. And then if we go to deduction based on an infinite mindset, which takes us beyond string theory into parallel, multiple universe, and folded dimensions, and so on and so forth. Remember that professor, the Japanese guy who talked about when I showed you that video? Okay. So this is what kind of thing they talk about. So it goes from a finite into an infinite kind of cause effect. And cause effect, of course, is part of metaphysics. So that will basically be the first semester. We should understand, we should recap all of the scientific human knowledge up to this point. We have to have very solid scientific basis so that we are not superstitious people. Okay? When in our spiritual search, we are not scientific. We are not superstitious because we have all the scientific facts. We don't have to understand every single equation and little formulas and bond angles and, no. But the overall picture, the consensus of the scientists, very well established theories, gravity and stuff, space, time, and so on. We need to have a solid knowledge of that before we can proceed to the next semester, which will use this textbook. The next semester, we will use Dr. Brian Weiss, who is who wrote this book, Again, Credibility. This book is called Many Lives, Many Masters, the true story of a prominent psychiatrist, his young patient, and the past life therapy that changed both their lives. So he has hundreds and hundreds of patients which he treats through deep hypnosis, and in the regression hypnosis, they discover the previous life and also some other beings which pass messages through these patients. Okay. So that takes us into the spiritual world. Again, this is a very, if you read his book, his introduction says, I know when I publish this book, I might lose my medical license. But there is a bigger message here for humankind, bigger than me. So I must write this book based on my clinical practice. So it's very important to get reputable scientists with credible scientific evidence to support spiritualism. Let's get away from just have faith, blind faith, just believe. No, give me scientific proof, give me evidence. Well, we got books like this. We got we've got scientists of this kind, of this caliber. So that, okay, so the second semester, we'll talk about spiritualism, system of belief that emphasizes the spiritual nature of existence. The philosophical doctrine that all reality is spiritual, not material. Textbook by Dr. Brian White. Deduction based on a finite mindset will be theism. And because it's finite mindset, there's always a beginning and there's an end. So there's creation, and at the end, there's the end of the world, Judgment Day. It's a finite mindset. Deduction based on infinite mindset, that is infinite, like pantheism, infinite theism, or polytheism, many deities. Okay. So again, that's why lecture 1 is so important. It's always go from the finite to the infinite, finite to the infinite, whether we deal with semester 1, all the material things, all the non-spiritual things, or whether we move to semester 2, when we deal with all the spirituality. Right? So based on a finite